Good morning, my beautiful friends, and welcome to Buzz from the Hive. Today I'm going to be reading from r/regular revenge. And the story is called Never Try to Steal from Someone, as you never know what may be laying in wait for you. I cannot stress this enough. This is not my story. I heard it yesterday when I went to my boyfriend's brother's place to drop off some groceries. I saw the kids outside, but they looked a bit off. So I asked, "What's up?" Turns out the oldest had stolen something. While talking with their mother, she said that she had told them the story about her aunt and uncle, and told it to me. And the story goes like this. Her aunt, who I'll call Stacy, and uncle, who I'll call Bill, sold their house, but their new house wasn't ready for them to move in yet. I don't know the details as to why, but there was an issue that required them to stay out of the house for a bit. There weren't many options for where they could stay in the meantime, so they had to book a room at a smaller motel. Most of their possessions had already been moved into the new house, so they only brought necessaries with them to keep into the motel. They were naturally not happy with their situation, but they made do. After a week of staying there, they come back one night after work to find the door to the room partway open. Inside, they found that the room had been ransacked. They went to the on-site manager to report this, and they called the police. When the police arrived, they asked the manager to see the security footage. Other than this and dusting for prints, they told them that there wasn't much else that they could do, and they would have to keep an eye out for the person in the footage. They went through the room to see if there was anything missing. Thankfully, most of their important items had been kept with them or in the car. Only a few minor things had been stolen. The manager said that they had had a problem with this person several times before, but they hadn't been able to catch him yet. This, of course, did not sit well with them. They knew they would, unfortunately, need to stay at this motel for about a month or two. And now that they knew that the hotel had a problem with this guy, they made sure to keep all of their belongings in the trunk of their car, which was usually with one of them during the day. They were still waiting for the on-site manager to get them a replacement TV, as all that was in the room was a bed, TV stand, dresser, chairs, and a table. For the next week, everything was fine, but then when they came back to their room, they found that their door had been unlocked. The dresser drawers were all open. The bed sheets were thrown to the ground. They went to the site manager to tell him that their room had been broken into again. The police were called yet again, but nothing more was done. Now I know what you're thinking. So far, this is relatively a boring story, but here comes the revenge. It wasn't well known, but Stacy and Bill had actually kept a rather large reptile collection, and they had had enough of this guy, so they decided to teach him a lesson. Because they were unable to move into the house right away, they had to keep their reptile collection at a friend's place, about 40 minutes away from the motel. That night, they made a special trip to pick up Georgina, a rather unpleasant 11-foot reticulated python that had a nasty habit of biting repeatedly rather than latching on. They had a PVC enclosure that looked very similar to a large chest or container that someone would keep valuables in, complete with a conspicuous lock. Before anyone freaks out, this is an actual reptile enclosure designed specifically for large snakes, with proper ventilation and heating. But if you don't know what you're looking at, it really does look like a large chest. So they brought Georgina to the motel. They kept her up on the dresser on the far side of the room away from any potential winter drafts that may come into the door, but made sure that the enclosure was visible. And being that the enclosure was the warmest spot in the room, they weren't worried if her door was left open, as she would want to stay in the warmest place. A couple weeks go by with no incident, but they were patient. Roughly 3 weeks after bringing Georgina to the room, they came back to find the door wide open and a trail of blood going to the sidewalk. They went into the room to find the table knocked over and blood everywhere. They saw the lock on Georgina's enclosure had been opened and the lid was off, and she was curled up in her favorite spot with blood in the enclosure, and she started hissing the moment she saw them. Naturally, they were prepared for this and had a replacement lock in the car, so while one of them closed the lid, the other grabbed the lock. They quickly and quietly removed her and her enclosure from the room and drove her back to their friend's house, where they carefully cleaned her up and got her into a fresh enclosure, then returned to the motel. As soon as they got to the door, they were thinking what to do next, when the manager knocked on their door. He seemed quite shocked when they let him in and he saw what happened. He had seen the blood trail and was waiting for them to get back to talk to them. When he asked what had happened, they said, "We're not sure. Someone seems to have broken in, and they must have cut themselves." The manager gave them a disbelieving look and asked, "So what was that crate you carried out when you came back?" The two of them shared a look, and Stacy decided to tell him the truth. The manager went pale when he found out about Georgina being in the motel, but he also chuckled because the thief finally got what he deserved. But he did ask them to never do that again. The manager called the police. They had quite a few questions after seeing all the blood in the room, and the manager, happy the thief had finally gotten what he deserved, only showed them the footage of him breaking into the room and running out in a panic. He did not show the footage from when they had gotten back into the room and removed a suspiciously large crate. Being a small town, word started to get around of a man that went to the hospital with several nasty injuries, claiming he had been attacked by a monster snake, but refused to say where it had happened. He was a known drunk, so no one believed him. The doctors were concerned as they had no idea how he had gotten the injuries, since it was the dead of winter, and they knew that a snake large enough to make those wounds were not native to the area. Bill and Stacy ended up staying in the motel for nearly 3 months altogether. And after this last incident, they never had a problem with break-ins again. After this experience, they made sure to always tell their family, never steal from anyone, as you never know what may be laying in wait for you. I thought this was a good story to share, and I hope you enjoyed it. Wow. Well, that's an interesting way to try and teach children not to steal. Not exactly sure that if I were to have children and have this problem, I don't think I would be telling them this story, mainly because I don't want them to have nightmares. Pretty much the only other thing I can say, retics are not for the faint of heart. They are for experienced keepers. Definitely don't keep them for your first snake. Well, this wraps up my video for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, hit that subscribe button for me so you never miss an upcoming video, and leave a comment. Let me know what you would have done. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.